Why do we respect busy people more than effective people? One thing I've always found fascinating is how much respect people receive simply for being busy. Not productive, not effective, not efficient, busy. Think about it. Someone says they're working 12-hour days. We immediately assume they're ambitious, important, successful, dedicated. Someone says they're booked solid for the next 3 weeks. We nod with approval. Someone says they're exhausted, overwhelmed, and buried in work, and somehow that often sounds impressive. But why? Because if we're being honest, being busy and being effective are not the same thing. In fact, they can sometimes be opposites. A person can spend 12 hours accomplishing what another person accomplishes in 4. A person can attend 20 meetings and solve nothing. Another person can attend one meeting and solve everything. Yet somehow the first person often receives more admiration. I've always wondered why that is. And I think part of the answer is that busyness is visible. Effectiveness is not. People can see your schedule. They can see your calendar. They can see your emails. They can see your meetings. They can see you running from place to place. What they can't always see is results. Results are quieter. Results don't always look dramatic. In fact, the most effective people often appear surprisingly calm. They don't seem rushed. They don't seem frantic. They don't seem overwhelmed. And because of that, people sometimes underestimate them. It's almost as if we've developed a cultural belief that important people must be stressed, that successful people must be exhausted, that valuable people must be constantly occupied. But what if that's backward? What if the goal isn't to be busy? What if the goal is to become so effective that you no longer need to be busy all the time? Think about the people we admire most, the truly successful ones, the people who seem to have mastered their lives. Many of them aren't rushing around frantically. They've built systems. They've developed judgment. They've learned how to prioritize. They've figured out what matters and what doesn't. As a result, they often accomplish more while appearing to do less. And yet, many people look at that and think, must be nice, as though calmness is evidence that someone isn't working, when sometimes calmness is evidence that they've become exceptionally good at working. What's even more interesting is that people often wear busyness like a status symbol. Ask someone how they're doing. The answer is frequently busy, not happy, not fulfilled, not peaceful, busy. Almost as if busyness itself has become a form of social currency, a way of signaling importance, a way of saying, people need me, things depend on me, my time is valuable. But I wonder if we've confused demand with value. Just because many things are competing for your attention doesn't mean those things deserve your attention. Just because you're occupied doesn't mean you're advancing. And just because you're exhausted doesn't mean you're succeeding. The older I get, the more suspicious I become of activity for the sake of activity, because motion and progress are not the same thing. A hamster runs all day and goes nowhere. A person can spend years being incredibly busy while making very little progress towards what actually matters. Meanwhile, someone else quietly focuses on a handful of important things and transforms their life. One looks impressive, the other produces results. And perhaps that's why I've started asking a different question. Instead of asking whether someone is busy, I wonder whether they're effective. Instead of asking how much they're doing, I wonder whether what they're doing actually matters. Because at the end of the day, nobody receives extra credit for being overwhelmed. The goal was never to fill every hour. The goal was to create a life that works. And those are two very different objectives.